Welcome to another edition of Jazz Smack Postgame. The Jazz went to Minnesota tonight and took their lumps. Anthony Edwards dunked hard on the Utah Jazz tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what happened.
Jazz Smack, your source for information and analysis about the Utah Jazz and NBA basketball. Jazz Smack is a community for passionate Utah Jazz NBA fans.
So the Jazz really took some lumps tonight. It really wasn't the most entertaining and beautiful game to watch. And it was kind of to be expected based on what happened with the last game with the Jazz, and also Minnesota's been on a real roll. But on the other hand, the Jazz played with a lot of their main guys tonight as well, and it really did not look good. I mean, it was really disjointed. They committed a ton of turnovers again. They had few assists. That first quarter was a disaster. So it wasn't encouraging. On the other hand, we could look at it and say, okay, Collin Sexton had some real struggles last game, and it wasn't pretty. And tonight, he really bounced back, and he was the high scorer for the Jazz. He was probably the best player for the Jazz, in all honesty. And so I'm happy for Collin. He got his numbers. He got them efficiently. So he had a really good bounce-back game, and so I'm happy for him. But overall, the team did not play well, and it's really hard to find real big positives out of this particular game. They struggled on defense. They struggled on offense. Most individual players struggled on both sides of the ball. It was just a struggle tonight. But then again, Minnesota's one of the hottest teams in the league. Any thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately, they're hottest team in the league because we have their draft pick and we're rooting against them. But they are really hot. There's two takeaways from me for this game. One, that we don't have anybody that can guard somebody like Anthony Edwards. We all know that. When we got a guy who can score like that, we need to put like a shutdown defender on him, and we have no one. Honestly, we were trying Taylor Hendricks for that, and unfortunately he was injured early in the season, and I think he has some potential to do that. And I think Cody's been showing some nice things recently, but you can't have Sexton, look, he does his best against Edwards, but that's really hard, and we just don't have anybody that's like that 6'7" wing that's like really athletic and, bump up with those guys and make their shots tough. And I think the other thing is that Minnesota's defense was fantastic tonight. Let's face it. And when we get a fantastic defense, I think it really exposes some of our young players and some of our inefficiencies. So those are my two takeaways.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, Walker had some struggles tonight too, and he usually is really efficient around the basket. But he, not only because of Rudy's length, but he struggled with some other guys too, where he really needs to take advantage of those smaller guys, but he didn't tonight. He really struggled. I mean, he got blocked a couple of times by guys that he should not be blocked by, especially when he's like in a one-on-one situation in the paint with those guys. That's one of the places where Walker really needs some growth. Now, from a coaching standpoint, I absolutely disagree with what the Jazz are doing with Walker, especially tonight. I mean, he shot 6 3-pointers tonight. The Jazz in that first quarter were really struggling on both sides of the ball, so Hardy takes a timeout. They come back from the timeout, they have the ball, and what do? Walker shoots a 3-pointer early in the shot clock. Like, that's just brain-dead basketball. That's idiocy. And those type of things need to change. I mean, Ainge needs to sit down with Hardy and say, okay, listen, this cannot happen. The team has to be smarter than this. Even when we are in development mode, this cannot take place, period. That is just stupid. And Walker shooting 6 threes, I want Walker to increase his range a bit, but out to the 3-point line, I think is just not in the cards right now, and I think it's a really poor use of Walker Kessler.
I was more troubled, honestly, by the blocks of like McDaniel at him at the rim. where that block would not have happened if he just would have dunked the ball. Like, honestly, I would rather they really focus with Walker and say, look, you've got great skills around with both hands being able to finish, but you don't want to be blocked. I mean, that's embarrassing. The blocks that he had at the rim when he could have just gone up and jam it over the guy. Like, go up with all your force, and if the guy tries to block, you break his hand, right? I mean, that's what the mentality you have to have down near the hoop is to take it in. And so, like, his rebounds were there, but some of those finishes around the hoop, I was disappointed that he didn't go up stronger with. And he does that continuously. So it's something that's his tendencies. His tendencies is to be somewhat of a soft player, let's face it. But that's where coaching has to come in and say, like, Walker, you go in there and you go in there like Edwards did. That clip of you and Edwards, that's what we want you to do, Walker, because you're bigger than them. Well, you're not bigger than Rudy, but you're stronger than Rudy. Go in there and jam it over them. So I was bothered by that. I mean, the McDaniel block on him was like, whoa, come on, Walker.
Yeah, that can't happen. I mean, when he's facing smaller guys in the paint, he's got to go up through them and try. He can't finesse it. Jokic can get away with it a little bit, but even Jokic against the smaller guys, he's not finessing it. Against the bigger guys, he'll finesse it. Against the smaller guys, he does not finesse it. He goes up through and he'll get contact and he'll bump them off, and Walker has to power through those guys. I mean, Jaden McDaniels is so much smaller, both in weight, both in length. He just has to power through a guy like that. And Walker needs growth in this area. Obviously, this is one of the things where he needs to get better, but it's just... It was frustrating tonight, in all honesty, because Walker's field goal percentage, we all know, it's the highest in the NBA. But tonight, he just really struggled.
Yeah, it was a frustrating game, honestly, to watch. And I even was, looking at Collin. I look at his box score, and he's like 50% from the field. The reality is he didn't seem that in watching the game to me. And I think this is like one of the amazing things of Collin Sexton I've noticed is that he gets enough easy baskets that even if he's not shooting particularly well from the field, his field goal percentage is relatively high. But he didn't have like a stellar, like notwithstanding his stats showing like, look, he was a 50% from the free. Like he missed a lot of shots tonight. And, I attribute a lot of it. Their defense was good. I mean, their defense was good. They challenged players throughout. Like at every position, they were challenging the players and making it tough. Like Markkanen hit some really tough long shots that he dropped in, but they were covered. So I give Minnesota a lot of credit. I give their coach a lot of credit. They're doing something right. And even though they're right in a play-in at this point in time, and they may not catch Golden State that team's going to be tough in the playoffs. I would not want to play this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, they have the ability to defend. They have really long guys on the perimeter. They have Rudy they have Anthony Edwards, who's a terrific defender when he really puts his mind to it. They have all the pieces to really disrupt defensively. And Minnesota and OKC are the two teams that can really disrupt defensively. And I'm not so sure that those are the two top teams right at this moment, at least in the Western Conference. I mean, I think that's the reality of it. Just because looking at it from both sides of the ball, I mean, Minnesota has guys, and they have guys that can defend, and I'm a big fan of defense. But anyway, let's take a look at the box score and see exactly what did take place tonight. My first reaction with the box score is I do look at Lowry, and I look at the 26 minutes. So he played a few more minutes than he did last game, but he's playing roughly half the game. But he takes 12 field goal attempts, and 11 of them are threes. I mean, it's kind of reverting back to the Chicago Bulls days where he's just out on the 3-point line jacking shots, and it's a poor utilization of his skills, and it's just a poor implementation of offense in general, and I just don't agree with it. The Jazz, they have to scheme, and the philosophy needs to change on both sides of the ball. It just can't. It's not on one side. It's not on the other side. It's both sides. Something needs to change, and I still don't feel that Hardy's going to be the coach long term. I don't think he's the guy, but something else needs to change. I know they're in tank mode, but I mean, guys develop habits, and those habits tend to stick. And they're developing bad habits because the philosophy that they're trying to employ is just really flawed. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's flawed.
Yeah, I'll point out one other thing with him. He had one rebound. So in 26 minutes, he had one rebound, and he's a pure 7-footer, right? And in the last few years, he was getting a lot of rebounds. Now, Walker got 19, so he's sucking up a lot of those rebounds. But still, you need more for your guy playing power forward. So I think that's reinforced that he's just hanging out on the perimeter and in his 26 minutes rather than like banging down low, et cetera. And so I'm not sure. The interesting thing is that based upon points allowed, the Jazz are the worst in the NBA in defense. Now, some of that, I've been thinking about those statistics, and some of those come to your style of play. Like if you have the most points scored and your whole game is running up and down the court, you may lead the league in points, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're the best offense, right? And I think it's kind of the same offense. It's not like that's the defensive statistic you look at, but whether we're the worst or we're close to the worst, it doesn't really matter. We're bad, right? And that should be part of your philosophy of teaching players they've got to play both sides of the ball. It's not just about offense. You've got to hustle. You got to rebound. You got to do it all. And we don't see that yet with our team. Let's face it. We don't see that yet. I mean, Cody also no rebounds again, or one rebound tonight. And that can't happen. I mean, your two forwards, you can't have that out of your two forwards.
Yeah, again, like you said, he's just hanging around the perimeter. I mean, talking about Lowry, and that just can't be the case. Like, you can't have your power forward who's 7 feet tall, 26 minutes, and he gets one rebound, 2 assists, and 3 turnovers. Like, that just can't be your stat line. And 11 3-pointers on 12 field goal attempts. Like, that's just a lousy stat line. I don't care what anybody says. That's a lousy stat line, and that's poor utilization of somebody with Lowry's skills. Like, he's got to be better than that. It's just that's the reality. So that's frustrating with Lowry. Walker, we talked about. He had a ton of rebounds. The 19 rebounds, yes, that's a massive number of rebounds. And the 15 points, that's a lot of points for Walker. But he also shot 15 shots, and he was 1 for 6 on threes. So, and again, this is another thing with Walker. He had no block shots tonight. He had no steals, and he had no assists. So things are missing out of a box score where there should be some statistical pieces in that entire box score, because Walker played 31 minutes in this game. So it's not like he's not playing a lot of minutes. Now, yes, Minnesota's defense is very good, but still, that's not an excuse for what happened tonight. And overall, the Jazz just need to be better. And I think this starts at the top with the coaching. And that's, I think, the major problem with what we're seeing right now on the court.
Yeah, the other change I would have made in the starting lineup is I honestly would have started Flip at small forward or something like that, just because I felt like the first quarter we were really out of sync. I mean, we were turning the ball over, we had no offensive flow, etc. And honestly, I've been really happy with Cody the last couple of weeks, but he struggled tonight. He struggled defensively. He struggled to rebound the ball. And I felt like we would have been so much better off by playing Flip with his passing ability, his ability to stretch the floor, and his rebound. Let's face it, like his ability to rebound, what is his minutes? 18 minutes, 4 for 7, 2 for 4 from 3-pointers again, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, right? I mean, that would have been really helpful to have that in the starting lineup. And then maybe even play them longer tonight, because this was we could play all of our guys. We could have played Collins if he was too, because we're going against a good team on the road. So we could have really gone all out and tried to win the game with our best players. So I think it just would have really helped. Now, I'm not trying to jam on Cody Williams because honestly, I've been really happy with him the last couple of weeks. I mean, honestly, he's seen growth, and we got to be really happy with that. But tonight he struggled. Let's face it, tonight he struggled, and there wasn't much to the box score in 20 minutes.
Yeah. It was really disappointed. In all honesty, it was just really disappointing from Cody's standpoint. It was a really disappointing game. I think that moving forward, I think the Jazz do need some concentration on having multiple passers on the court at the same time. I mean, you just can't have one or two guys on the court at one time that are competent passers. I mean, right now, Cody Williams is not a passer. Lowry is clearly not a passer. And Walker Kessler, I think he's really unselfish guy, but he's not a guy who creates for his teammate passing a ball generally, unless it's a situation where he's just swinging the ball because he's getting in the lane or something like that, and there's an open guy on the wing. But other than that, he's not creating plays for other players other than that one situation. So, Collin's a decent passer, and Isaiah is obviously a competent passer, but there are far too few really skilled passers on the Jazz right now. I mean, that's plain as day to anybody who watches the Jazz play.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But even if John Collins is there, we have a rookie who's got some really passing skills, but he's a rookie, so he tends to turn the ball over. We all know that. But he's a very competent passer. He's got great skills. Collin Sexton is learning to pass more, but at best, I think he's going to be an average passer in the NBA. But then, relative to the rest of the guys that we're playing in the starting lineup, those two are the only ones. Lowry doesn't pass.
Yeah.
He does not pass. Cody has some skills, but has not shown it yet. And Walker really is not a great passer, and neither is John Collins. John Collins is probably better than those other three, so it would have helped to have him there. Plus, you have to respect him on the 3-point line. But you can understand, like, that's a struggling offensive, offensive group when you only got 2 of the 5 guys that pass and really only one that's above average passer.
Yeah, I completely agree with all that. It's a challenge for this particular roster, especially the way the Jazz coach with like a lot of isolation type stuff out on the perimeter. It's just, I mean, it's a challenge, and that's why I can have some really ugly basketball at times. That's one of the reasons. So Kyle tonight I thought he had statistically, he had a decent game, like you said, the 4 for 7, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals in only 19 minutes. I mean, those are solid numbers. I mean, he went 2 for 4 again on threes. Solid numbers. I mean, it wasn't really noticeable in this game because the game was so ugly overall, but just looking at this pure statistics and not watching the game, he had a good game. And we continue to see real positive growth with Kyle from game to game. I mean, he has some down games here and there, but overall, he's trending in the right direction. And this summer league coming up is going to be really fun. I mean, obviously Kyle should be there. Isaiah should be there. I think this could be a really fun summer league because the Jazz only have 14 games left after tonight's game. 14 games left. And so that summer league is obviously not until July, but it's not too far off in terms of the number of games left for the Jazz. And then we have the summer league, and the NBA lottery is obviously coming up too, which we're all going to be very interested in. And maybe we'll even do a live stream for that because that's going to be a really big night for the future of this franchise if we get lucky.
Yeah, let's. I mean, summer league will be fantastic if we're out there watching flag play for us as well.
Yeah,
But I agree with like your comments on Flip is that you and I both see him as a core part of the future. Like we know he's not proven himself on all the things, but we're very bullish on Flip. We want to see more of him. He's shown tremendous growth. I mean, tremendous growth. Now, I think he had all these skills coming in. Like he had amazing skills coming in. I still baffled how he fell to the second round, but thank goodness he did. but he's shooting the 3-pointers so well now. You've got to respect him. He rebounds the ball well. He assists the ball well. He's got a good handle for his size. And the other thing that I found encouraging, I was just looking it up on ESPN, is that what he's listed at in ESPN as a forward, which you and I have been saying, like that's his role, whether it's a small forward or a power forward, that is his role. Jazz analysts, etc., keep referring to him as a center. He is not a center. I'm sorry. He can fill in sometimes like Olynyk did as a center, but what his role is a power forward or a small forward, and he's got the skills to do that. He can move his feet. He can't guard Anthony Edwards. I'm not saying he can, but he could guard a McDaniel, right? I mean, this guy can. He is a forward. He's not a center, but honestly, I think he's going to be a very good forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's if he's being played at center, he's being played out of position. He can do it spot minutes against certain guys, but if you're sticking him in there to try and bang with, some of these really bruiser guys that we've seen him, like Jonas, I mean, he's going to get killed, and you're putting him out there to get killed, and that's not his game. That's not where he should be playing. He's strictly a forward, period. And I think he can swing both ways between those two forward positions. And he's proven, he's turning himself into one of the best perimeter shooters on the entire team. I mean, he's been shooting the ball so well lately. Like if he's open, I have confidence that he's going to make that shot now at a really high percentage. And I certainly would not have said that earlier in the year because he was really struggling. But boy, he looks really good shooting the ball right now. And his ball handling for a 6'11 guy. And at the pre-draft camp, he measured out at 6'11. I mean, it's superb. It's very, very elite. So he's terrific, trending in the right direction.
Yeah, he's also, the other thing I'd point out of him, just looking at his stats so far this year, 51.4% from the field for a stinking rookie that's shooting outside, 39% from three, 64% from the free throw line, which honestly is one that completely baffles me as well. This guy's mechanics are on his free throw percentage. 5.5 rebounds in under 20 minutes a game. 5.5 rebounds in under 20 minutes a game. 2 assists, 0.2 blocks, 0.6 steals. So like if he has a minute or 32, 36 minute night, he's got really, really strong statistics. And this is what he's doing as a rookie. I mean, he's still learning. He's got to bulk up. He's got to get stronger, etc. And honestly, I think that they should be playing him, at the high post a lot like they're doing with Sabonis, because his assists could go way up if they're allowing him to do it, because he's got like great assist skills. But unlike Sabonis, Sabonis is a tough character, and I like Sabonis, but he can't shoot worth a darn.
No.
Like, what do you do against a high post with Flip who can shoot the way he can, pass, and got a handles? I don't know how you guard that. So, I mean, we're just scratching the surface with this guy.
Yeah. I think this is one of the ways that the Jazz can greatly improve their offense. Like, just diversify your offense instead of this 5-out garbage. Put Filipowski at the high post and run offense with off-ball screens and stuff with inside of the 3-point line to actually create backdoor passing. I mean, there's so many things that they could do that would make the offense so much better, and it would utilize the elite skills that Filipowski possesses at his size. And I hope that the Jazz, based on what's happened this year with the play of the rookies, that they reevaluate what they're doing. I hope the coaching staff, all 37 coaches, are smart enough to be able to, with Ainge's encouragement, can actually make some changes that make the team more enjoyable to watch, that are better for the players that are currently on the roster, that have potential to be very good, that we're trying to develop. That's what I hope. So, from that standpoint, the other thing that, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this particular night and this particular box score, in all honesty. It was rather disappointing. I'm really happy that Collin just kind of, that he moved on from that last game completely, And yes, watching the game, it didn't really jump out at you that he was having a good game. But statistically, the 22 points on 9 for 18 shooting, 1 for 2 from 3, 3 for 5 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, only 2 turnovers. I would say he's clearly the player of this game, and he had a total rebound game, a complete redemption game, and I'm really happy for him because I want to see Collin succeed, and I want him to succeed as a person, and I want the Jazz to be able to get full value for him when they do trade him, and I think it's just good for both parties that he played really well tonight, at least statistically.
Yeah, and had 34 minutes, which, thank you for giving him that because I think he really needed it. I think Collin really needed it. I know Keontae was out and Clarkson wasn't playing, so he's going to get more minutes, but I think he really needed the minutes.
Yeah.
He was very frustrated, so it was good to see it.
Yep. So those are my comments for tonight. Those are the things that I personally saw. Any other comments before we call tonight? All right. Well, we are going to call it a night then, and we hope that everybody has a great night. And for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And you can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack. And we hope that everybody has a great night. Good night, everybody.